CIO News. I'm Khushbu Soni, a host for the broadcast and a contributing editor at CIO News, where we write about business strategy and boardroom issues for technology leaders. This is a recorded session and will be available on our website, which is cionews.co.in, and our CIO News LinkedIn handle. This is an exclusive fireside chat powered by Avaya on transformation through customer experience. Businesses are built by experiences they provide, and every day millions of those experiences are delivered by Avaya. Avaya is shaping what's next for future of work with innovation and partnerships that deliver game-changing business benefits. Let me dive in introducing my guest for today. He is Mr. Deepu KV, President Operations and Customer Experience at Bajaj Allianz General Insurance. Deepu has more than 25 years of rich experience driving digital transformation and industry leadership. Prior to Bajaj, Deepu has worked with GE Capital for almost 19 years. Deepu has helped organizations to scale from scratch and also helped them in transforming businesses. Many of his accomplishments have received industry awards and press coverage. He's a speaker on digital transformation and innovation at various industry forums. He also takes sessions on senior industry executives and National Insurance Academy. Welcome, Deepu.
Thank you for such a warm introduction, Khushbu, and looking forward to a good discussion, with all of you here.
Great. I would also like to invite Mr. Nilesh Marathe. He's a digital engagement solution sales leader at Avaya, India. Nilesh Marathe has rich experience of 17 years in contact center and unified communication with organizations such as Norton, Microsoft, and Avaya. Nilesh has a deep understanding of Avaya engagement solutions and has good knowledge on the customer journey mapping and devising their digital transformation strategy. Nilesh has led the way in digital transformation journey powered by artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, cloud, and emerging technologies. Welcome, Nilesh.
Thank you, Khushbu.
Awesome. So we're going to start with our fireside chat. Over to you, Nilesh, for you to start with questions.
Well, good afternoon. Thank you, Khushbu, and good afternoon. And thank you, Deepu sir, for taking time out to be with us today.
Welcome, Nilesh.
We just came out of the 2 months lockdown that we all experienced. Now things are getting back to the normal. When the lockdown started, everyone was hustling to move the employees work from home. And we all remember, how especially the businesses and IT, hustled together to enable people working from home, etc. And so just wanted to start with that experience. How did you handle, moving your people, contact center agents, your back office employees, other employees working from home? What was your experience like? How did you handle that particular situation? So that would be very interesting to me.
So I think it's good you asked this question, Nilesh, because a lot of people during COVID-19 tended to focus on, the digital side of things. It's good that you asked about the people who work, behind the scenes, employees. So Nilesh, there were essentially two dimensions. One is, when it came to our contact center folks, because you asked about them. The good thing is, we had started our digital transformation journey, much ahead of, COVID-19. Obviously, nobody had predicted, the advent of COVID-19. We were anyway on our journey. And the good thing is, because we were ready, and COVID-19, as one of my friends, colorfully put it, it was a global, unplanned UAT. I think, we cleared the test, flying colors.
True.
So we embarked on a massive communication blitzkrieg and told our customers, that they could avail of our digital assets, while the contact centers, were shut down, or they were working with very limited capacity. The other thing we did, because sometimes the most effective solutions, are the simplest of solutions. When our contact center employees were basically working from home, initially everybody was just wondering, because suddenly you have people working from home, and it's not the way you run a typical, inbound, call center where you have a, software monitoring, customer calls, queuing them up and, handing them over to executives as they get freed up. Since people are working in, from home, in a scattered environment, we said, let's do one thing. There is capacity available because these people are there, working from home. So we said, let's do one thing. Let's quickly convert inbound calling into outbound calling. So which means, in case, customers need to speak, they would contact customers. They said, okay, how do customers contact us? Because inbound, call center is right now not functional. So we gave them a missed call. We gave them a missed call facility. So it said, give us a missed call, we'll call you back. So very simple tool. We converted inbound into missed call and outbound. And because, we are digital assets, we were able to manage, from that perspective. The second dimension, coming back to your core question of employees, what we did, Nilesh, was even as people were physically and socially distanced, we said, we need to keep them emotionally and, digitally engaged because these are people, who are receiving customer calls and, they need to be constantly motivated. So we said, let's convert adversity into opportunity. When you have employee engagement in the office, only employees are involved. Now that they're working from home, why not involve families? So we moved from, employee engagement to family engagement. So for example, one weekend we came out of the MasterChef competition. So somebody's mother, somebody's wife, somebody's sister, somebody's daughter, all of them, posting recipes and, nice photographs of dishes, in the WhatsApp group. It just turned out to be a massive hit. And the numbers speak for themselves. Our switch to a digital way of working was without any single glitch. Our customer complaints during that time fell by 90%. We also got an NPS done to a third party, and we found, that we had the highest NPS. And during the last 10 months, we have won 15 awards, including global, APAC, and country level awards.
Brilliant, brilliant.
Thank you.
Just a follow-up question on this. Now, since everyone is used to working from office, etc., right? So in office we have all the protection, security measures. The people, supervisors or managers, they are watching over and ensuring that people are working and so on. When everybody moves home, how about the productivity? What was your experience? What the productivity of the employees? And how do you do? Did you was there a need to track the productivity of employees, or you simply trusted people? Hey, they're going to work. So how did you approach the situation, especially from the productivity perspective, productivity and data security, if you may touch upon?
I think, Nilesh, both are again, good questions. See, from a data security perspective, there are two aspects. One, of course, tools. We obviously, did invest in cybersecurity. That goes without saying, when you're having your people working from home because you have customer data, and people are, have access to various modules. So obviously, cybersecurity, of the highest level. From both perspectives, one is if something from outside attacks a system, how do we protect ourselves? Similarly, if somebody from inside, tries to send something which he or she should not, how do we catch them, right? DLP. So basically, we had cybersecurity of the highest level, and we didn't have a single incident. But the other aspect, what are the tool is we focus on the human being. Because if you look at most data leakage incidents, right, they've not happened because maybe the tool has failed. It's happened because maybe human beings have made some silly mistakes. So we embarked on massive communication and orientation, and we ensured that people were really vigilant from a cybersecurity perspective. That's on that angle. Coming to productivity, Nilesh, see, one thing which work from home does, especially in big cities like Delhi and Mumbai, it takes away commute time, right? So people obviously have save on that. So we did two things. We invested a lot at that time in digital, L&D, learning and development. So we basically reoriented them in terms of how to manage work, while obviously being on their own, right? Because they need to monitor themselves, they need to motivate themselves, right? It's not they can get up and go to a buddy and have a conversation. We did that, and we were also pleasantly surprised to figure out that during the first few months, our productivity stayed on par, and over the next few weeks, it actually went up, compared to the pre-pandemic times.
Wow. Okay. That's good. You mentioned digital, so let me just come to the digital. So what I have seen working with some customers is uh, the physical access was not available, right, for the consumers, for the employees, for the organizations, etc. And then everyone started focusing on digital. Hey, now we need to leverage digital to reach out to the customer. Customers also preferred the digital channels because people were digital was available everywhere as long as the data connection was there. While the not everyone was working from home. If they were working from home, there were voice issues, challenges, etc. So how did you leverage digital channels? Did you see an adoption in the digital in your business, that how the customer engaged, interacted with you? what's your take on that? What was your experience?
Oh, Nilesh, it was an amazingly positive, and there's a dramatic uplift in the adoption of digital assets.
Mhm.
As I said, the first thing which we did was we embarked on a massive communication blitzkrieg because we didn't want customers to call up the call center and then be told saying that working with limited capacity thanks to the lockdown, please go to our website or please leverage our other assets. So we proactively reached out to them through tickers on our website. We sent emailers, we reached out to social media. We sent a mailer to them because we wanted to assure them that even if because of the lockdown, normal services are not functioning the way they should be, we do have digital channels available. The second is the good thing we had done, because as I had said, we had embarked on a digitization journey, much in advance. We had not picked, easy, low-hanging fruit, where the use cases would be niche use cases. We had actually figured out key drivers of traffic into our contact centers, and then we had built, seamless, frictionless, end-to-end customer journeys on our digital assets. So if you
Hmm.
download the app, you can carry out every servicing that you would call the contact center for. Buy a policy, get your policy renewed, file a claim, ask for an endorsement. The same thing, on our chatbot, and similarly, on the customer portal. So I think because we gave a frictionless experience, customers were able to get the same level of service. That's why I said, our complaints came down by 90%. The
Wow.
third aspect, Nilesh, is it's not only about bots. It's also about ensuring that we get human beings in when customers and bots are faced with exceptional queries. A bot can only be taught from the past, right? But then what happens if the customer throws up an exceptional query? Now we didn't ask the customer to terminate the chat, and then go to the call center or go to the website. What happens is a human being takes over and then he takes it through end to end. And studies show that NPS can fall from as high as 96 for first time resolution to as low as 65 if you just break it into two steps. And we also amplified our reach by making our chatbot services available in Hindi, because English tends to be the typical language of choice in digital assets. The
Correct.
other thing which we did was during COVID-19, people also became very wary of touch because nobody wants to press the button in the elevator or the key in the ATM. So
Correct.
we also ensured that we gave touchless UI UX. So our bot, AI-driven chatbot, was integrated with Alexa and Google Assistant, so which meant you can voice your commands, and
Hmm.
then get your order executed. So if you had Alexa at home, you could have just said, hey Alexa, can I get a copy of my insurance policy? Alexa speaks to our bot, and the policy is emailed to your registered email ID. And similarly, when customers walked into our branches, because there are no handshakes, you need to maintain social distancing, you can't exchange paper, we had come out with QR codes. So we told customers to scan these QR codes and then your request get fulfilled. Scan a QR code, your policy gets mailed to your email ID. Scan a QR code, your request for a claim gets processed. So I think because of the fact that we were very customer oriented, we did not just survive, but we actually thrived through the entire crisis.
Oh, that yeah. And so I think I just love the use case of leveraging the Alexas and Google Homes of the world to get things done. So I think so. I've been advocate of this leveraging these channels for a long, and I'm really happy to see that in it's been implemented.
Thank
Uh,
you.
Practical use. I'm so happy to hear that. Just taking this conversation further is, do you see, some of the things that I'm sure when you talk about you want to leverage the Alexa and Google Homes of the world, these technologies are powered by the cloud, right? So, and because of the cloud, things are a little easier. Imagine if we had to do something, install something, deploy on premise, it wouldn't have been possible, right? So the cloud makes life a little bit easier. So what's your take? How do you see your application adoption moving on the cloud? Cloud has been around for a while, but I'm talking about the more legacy applications delivered from cloud. How do you see that transition happening in your industry, in your own business?
I think Nilesh, the journey to the cloud is now pretty much on. If you look at all the major cloud providers, I think today they have more demand than they had possibly envisaged. And if you look at us, we were amongst the earlier adopters of the cloud, in the GI industry. In fact, we also transformed our core platform, and we moved to the cloud even as we move to the new platform. And in fact, there was a news item out in the media as well that we were one of the large GI players who simultaneously transformed the core platform while moving to the cloud. Now, going to the cloud, like you rightly said, Nilesh, obviously gives us plenty of advantages. One is you obviously don't get into the trap of hardware obsolescence because it's all out there and you don't invest in it. And the other is, earlier data used to reside in siloed data marts. Now you're able to create a single data lake, and once you have data, then you are not only able to give a lot of products to your customers, but you can also give, end-to-end servicing, right? So the cloud has definitely, played a key role, and it will continue to play, a key role going forward for, many players in the industry.
Yeah, and especially when you are adopting, you want to see the new technologies, adoption of the new technologies. The cloud makes it a little easier, right? So you don't know
Right.
how whether it's going to be successful for you, it's going to work for you, or not work for you. So I
Correct.
think yeah, the cloud makes it a little easier for you. Uh, Speaking about the advanced applications and technologies, how do you see the role of AI and analytics evolving in insurance business? Where do you see the areas where it is making impact internally from the productivity, also from a customer experience perspective? Where do you see these technologies making an impact?
Yeah. I think one is, I keep telling everybody, that the actuary, in the insurance industry, actuaries have been around for years. The actuary is the original data scientist. Because if they had not used data, they would have been able to come up with, insurance models, right? Because they determine pricing and they determine, various aspects of, insurance products. So definitely, as you enrich your entire customer journey with data end to end, right? Because today, as it gets digital, increasingly digital, you get more data. Obviously, analytics is here to play. I mean, it's a no-brainer. The more data that you have, you need to crunch it in the right manner to make sure that you are able to give faster solutions, maybe make them real time, and like I said earlier, give more data backed decisions. Be it products or be it servicing. I mean, it's clearly there. Now, coming to AI, Nilesh, I told you the example of the bot, right? How we leveraged, our AI-driven bot to give the same level, in fact, a superior level of servicing, to our customers, during the pandemic. Now, going forward, what we see is, if you look at what people have seen, everybody has worked on digitizing the physical because people have moved from, contact centers and manual interventions, to a lot of digital assets. But now
Correct.
the accent is on humanizing the digital
Hmm.
because customers are increasingly also expecting a human touch, because while bots can be clinical and consistent, but you also need empathy and care, because when you call up you need a healing touch, right? So
Yeah.
today the accent is on blending what we call the science of AI with the art of customer centricity to offer human centric AI. So increasingly, how do you make bots mimic human beings, and how do you bring in that touch of empathy and care throughout the entire journey? I'll give you one example which where we have deployed this. So if you look at health insurance, which is essential service and which continued uninterruptedly through the pandemic and beyond, in select hospitals where our customers going for hospitalization for treatment, they are worried about two things. One, of course, is recovery, illness to wellness, and the other is many people are very wary of navigating this complex administrative machinery in hospitals. So we told our customers to just worry about wellness. We have a virtual relationship manager, virtual because he doesn't go to the hospital thanks to COVID. He has to operate from outside, but he takes on the onus of servicing the customer, and it's completely digital, whether it is about reports, labs, bills, reimbursement, anything to do with the hospital. And customers have been so happy with this because they didn't have to worry about anything other than recovery, that when we got an NPS done on this particular activity, we got a score of 90 without a single detractor.
Wow.
Awesome.
Wow. That's just brilliant. And that's like, in fact, partially you answered my question in a way I was going to ask. Speaking about the new technology innovations that you have used, that tremendously impact the customer experience in a positive way. So how do you measure? And so NPS is one way that you rightly said, but just do you want to add more to it? How do you go about measuring and tracking the customer experience in your organization?
Yeah. So Nilesh, there are multiple ways of measuring customer experience. In fact, there is a concept now known as total customer experience, which is the sum of every single experience that the customer has with you. What happens in our business is, very often, because it's highly intermediary driven, so distribution led business, very often the customer may not necessarily experience the end company. His experience with the distributor becomes his impression of the company, right? So what we need to do is ensure that not only are we able to measure customer experience in terms of the various touch points that customers come to us for, because if you take the end-to-end life cycle, every customer buys an insurance policy. Many of them come for claims, and then in between, they would come for various services. And then the end point is, when they go in for renewal, for next year's policy. So across these various touch points, is where you have an opportunity to measure customer experience. The other is from a distributor's perspective, you also need to see how you can start measuring experience by distributor. Can you start doing, can you start measuring experience at that level? So a combination of these two, because it is B2C at one level and it is B2B2C at one level, at another level. So when you combine these two, that's when, you get a total customer view. And then, you can obviously, work on areas which you can continue to strengthen and the areas which you continue to reinforce so that, it's a constant journey of, iteration, and then you just continue to raise the bar all the time.
Brilliant, brilliant. And thank you for answering that. So that's all I had for today's session, Mr. Dibu. Thank you so much for answering and sharing your insights. I'm sure the audiences who are watching this video will love those insights, and especially some of the innovations that you mentioned. I think they're going to be pretty well received. So, Khushbu, that's all from me for today. Over to you.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
so much.
Nilesh. Yeah, and thank you, Khushbu. It was, pretty short and sweet, so it made it easy. So thank you. Thanks to both of you.
Right. Thank you so much, Viku, for sharing all your great insights. Before we close, I just want, if you can share certain best practices for other CX leaders, certain do's and don'ts with the dynamic, changes that we're seeing. Any best practices that you would want to give out?
Sure. So, Khushbu, it's a good question because at the end of the day, when you look at customer experience, it's industry agnostic, right? I mean, you learn from, non-linear partners as well. And you also, can share best practices, with peers across industries. So 2, 3 points come to mind. The first thing, Khushbu, is, it has to always start with the customer. Now, while it sounds very obvious, very often, we have seen people getting carried away by the latest buzzword. You know what? Everybody's talking about blockchain, AI, machine learning, Internet of Things. So can we do something in that area? That's not going to help. You need to start with the customer's need and then see if the solution meets the customer need. And it does not always have to be state of the art technology. Sometimes it can be a very simple solution, because if the solution does not meet the customer's need, then when the rubber hits the road, you're pretty much going to end up with a white elephant. But this is something which I keep telling a lot of people, that start with the customer's need in mind. What is his need, and then deploy the right technology stack to meet his need, and not the other way around. So that's clearly one area. The second area, Khushbu, is today when a customer experiences my digital assets, like whether it is my chatbot or let's say whether it is my mobile app, he's not going to compare it with the best experience that he's had with my competitor in the same industry. He is going to compare it with the best experience that he has had across industries. So your benchmarking has got to be industry agnostic. When you're looking at your assets, you cannot benchmark them, with your peers in the same industry. So if it's mobile app, figure out the best mobile app around. If it is, chatbot, figure out, the best, chatbot around. So I think, these two things, to start off with, if folks can focus on, these two areas, I think it'll go a long way, towards, enhancing the, the quality of service that they offer to their customers.
Awesome. Great. Great, Deepu. So thank you so much once again for sharing your journey with us as well as the best practices. It was great to host you today. Thank you, Nilesh, for driving the fireside chat.
Thank you. Thank you, Nilesh, and thank you, Khushbu, and have a nice evening, both of you. And of course, thanks to everybody, who's worked behind the scenes to make it happen.
Great.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Bye.